Hey, what's up YouTube? Dan the Fix-It Man. Got another quick video here for you. I'm going to show you how to change your front brake pads and your front brake rotor. You can see we went metal to metal on this one on a 2015 Lexus LX570. This is same as the LandCruiser series, or it's actually very similar to a Tundra as well. Now the first thing I like to do is push these caliper pistons back in, and you can do that just by wedging some screwdrivers in here and prying. This has two pistons on either side. We just need to push those in to make room for the new pad material and the thicker rotor. Before we do that, we need to pop the hood and take a look at our master cylinder and make sure that we have enough room in that reservoir so that when we push the fluid, it's going to go backwards through this line and into that master cylinder. We just want to make sure that we're not going to overflow that and make a mess. Let's go take a look and make sure. All right, so we got all kinds of engine covers in here, but fortunately they left the master cylinder available, and it's even got this little access window where you can see where that fluid level is, and we're still quite a ways below max, so we can go ahead and push those caliper pistons back in. A lot of people ask me if you need to remove the cap on the master cylinder when doing this, or if it's going to have too much resistance. I've tried it several times with and without removing it, and it doesn't seem to make a difference to me. Any air that's trapped in there, it still can escape or compress, but the less you can expose your brake fluid to air, the better, because the brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture in the air, and that causes it to degrade. But since we have enough room, let's go back down and get those pistons pushed back in. Now they sell several tools that are specialty tools which will help you push these caliper pistons back in, especially in a dual piston caliper like this once you take this off. But I found that it's pretty easy still to use a screwdriver, especially on this one where you've got a little lip there. You just wedge the screwdriver in between the pad and the rotor. See, I'm just kind of pushing a little bit. You can get the screwdriver wedged in there and just kind of work your way back and forth. A little harder to get in on this side just because this one has gone all the way down metal to metal, and you shouldn't have too much resistance. If you do, you might have a stuck caliper, or one of those pistons might be stuck, but this is working just fine. I should have mentioned it's a lot easier to turn your steering wheel so that this faces out, and I just did that just so I can get in here a little bit easier. Again, there's lots of different ways to do this. You could take the caliper off and use a couple channel locks or big C-clamps on there, and that'll work too. But those are pressed in, and we're good to take the pads out now. So this clip right here holds in the end here in these slide pins, so we'll just pull this out. And our kit comes with a new one, so we're not too worried about that. And sometimes these pins will come right out, and sometimes they're stuck. We'll just get that all the way out. And we are reusing these. The kit did not come with new slide pins here, so we gotta clean these up, and we'll get them greased up too. And then this spring right here, this holds the, basically pushes the pads apart. Usually this is in the top, but this one was in the bottom. Since that's where it was, that's where we'll put it, but I wonder if these brakes have been done before. They don't look like OEM. Yeah, these are Wagner. As you can see, of course, there's nothing left of this one. And there's our inside pad. And you can see that the wear indicator here is on the inside pad, and that had not even started rubbing yet, which is probably why they didn't really get any warning here. They said it just all of a sudden started, and it had gone metal to metal without making any squeaking or any preliminary noises. All right, now we need to pull off the two caliper bolts that hold the caliper on. And let's see, it looks like those are 17 millimeter. Bring it around over here on this side. You can use a breaker bar or whatever you have, but this impact, of course, is very handy. Just want to support the caliper when you take out the second bolt. Just don't want that to drop down or pull on the brake line. And then we're going to take this off. And just gonna hook it up right over here. All right, I've just got that hooked up here on the upper part of the control arm. Just these little hooks are pretty handy. You just don't want to bind up that brake line, and of course you don't want to let that dangle from the brake line. All right, now we can take off the rotor here. Sometimes these will just come right off if you're lucky. Other times you gotta hit it with a hammer. And sometimes you gotta get a bigger hammer. That did it. If the hammer trick doesn't work, you can see that there's 2 threaded holes on this rotor. You can grab a bolt. I believe this is 8 by 1.25, and you just thread those in, and it almost acts like a press up against the hub, and it will push it off. But the hammer trick usually works. You just got to go Tanya Harding on it for a little bit, and then it'll come off. And before we put on the new rotor, I'm just going to hit this with the wire brush to clean off any of that rust and debris. Just remember, if you're going to use a drill or anything, wear some safety glasses. I'm also going to brush this caliper, especially these surfaces where the pads ride. And, you know, don't scratch up your boots, but just take a look. Make sure that the boots are clean too. I'm just kind of brushing some of this dirt and debris out of there. The pads need to slide in and out through here. It's also not a bad idea to put a little bit of brake grease on that, which we'll probably do here in a sec. This may not be the right kind or the right type of anti-seize for this, but a little goes a long way on this stuff. But let's just get a little bit on the face here, and that little shoulder seems to be where the rotor wants to weld itself to this hub. Just try not to make too big of a mess. Now, before we put the rotor on, I'm just setting it here right now, just so I can clean the inside, and then I'll flip that around real quick. I'm just gonna use some brake cleaner on this. These rotors are packed in some sort of a grease or oil to protect them from rusting during shipping, and you can see this stuff will just kind of take that off, and then we'll flip this around. Now these caliper bolts, before I put them in, and before I put this caliper back on, I'm just gonna hit them with a little bit of this blue medium strength Loctite. Doesn't take much, just like that. All right, and then we can just kind of bring our caliper back around, and might have to push on the rotor a little bit to get that to line up. All right, just get those started, then we'll snug them down. The torque spec on these is 73 foot-pounds. All right, now we can take our slide pins here, and we're gonna hit these with the wire brush and get them all cleaned up. Kind of easier to kind of sit them in here. And again, just make sure you're wearing some eye protection here. Okay, and then we can take our new pads. I'm going to use this stuff here, this caliper grease and brake quiet. Just got it at O'Reilly Versachem, different brand than I usually use, but looks like pretty good stuff. So I'm just going to get some on the back of the pad here, where it's going to make contact with the face of those caliper pistons, and then here on the end of the pad, because this does have to slide in and out of this little face right here. And again, we cleaned that up, but I'm going to hit that with some grease too. Just make sure you don't get any on the rotor. That would not be good. If you do, just clean it off. All right, now you can see this is the pad that has the squealer, or the little metal tab here that makes noise, and it goes on the inside. That looks pretty good. And then for the outside pad, same thing. Let's get some of this caliper grease on the back of the pad and on the ends, and see if we can get that to just slide in place too. Yep, looks good. Sometimes when you push in those pads, they go in too far, and so you can just get a screwdriver and just push them back out, because otherwise your slide pin won't line up. Now I just double checked, this one was actually on the bottom. I double checked. On my Tundra, it comes on the top. On this vehicle, it's on the bottom. I don't know why. I'm just gonna put it how it was, and apparently I checked a couple pictures online, and that's what I saw as well, so we'll just do the same thing. So those just kind of slide in place like that. And then here again, we'll put some of this grease on these slide pins. We've cleaned them all up. And I'm just gonna put a little thin layer of this caliper grease on here. I guess you don't want too much, because you'll get too much dust and debris sticking to that, but these are known to seize or get stuck in there. Just kind of wiggle that in. Sorry, this guy is just always mowing lawns out here. And just tap that, tap it all the way through. Same with this one on the top, just some grease on the slide pin here and push it right through the top. And you see these little holes in the ends of these. You just want to line these up so that they're at a little bit of an angle. You can just use this pin itself to turn it if you need to. But I always just kind of get these started by putting them in, each slide pin kind of somewhat centered, and then you just press this all the way in like that. And you're done. It's as simple as that. Now before you head out, make sure you step on the brake pedal several times until it feels firm. That will push the caliper pistons back out, pressing these pads up against the rotor where they need to be. When you're pressing the pedal, don't press it all the way to the floor. That can damage the seals in the master cylinder. And then just double check the fluid level in your master cylinder as well. I hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't mind. That does help me out. I'll get a link in the description to some of the parts and tools used in the video as well. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck.